All right. Let's see, here we go. All right, so we got a ways to go. We're going to lower that sucker. Hey, Desiree. Hey, Desiree, can you, if you're there, can you comment to me whether, or in addition to the center dot and then the rays that go out, is there another circle drawn on your plate? Because I had the girls helping me with this one, so it doesn't have, I just don't have a memory of what everybody's looks like that I usually have when I mark them all myself. Or anybody who could comment for me. Whoops. Okay. I don't know why I'm typing this to Desiree. I could just tell you. Cheese tray is next week. Okay. All right, so this is the one we're doing this week. Got a couple of minutes till we get started. Oops, I guess I probably draped my clothes through that. I just leave this up here. It won't shine so much once we have the tray that or the plate that we're working on up there. So ignore the bright shininess for another minute. Okay. Yeah, that's the problem when I do them a week ahead of time, Desiree, is that we forget what weeks they are. I don't really, since I hardly ever even know what day it is, I'm probably the worst to be giving advice on that. So, I'm pulling up my cup of coffee. That's why I don't do these from home, because if I was at home, I probably wouldn't be having coffee, if you know what I mean. Clean up my little mess here. All right. Everybody coming on? I got my little twirly plate holder today. I have, as usual, a new setup to try. Okay. All right, so just as a reminder, you've got your pods of glazes, and you've got your tool, and your tool's going to have a mark. You know, each of the tips has a number on it, starting with 1 for the smallest tip, and then going all the way around to 8 for the largest tip. I know you can't see from here the numbers, but hopefully you can see them on yours. If you happen to be working with one of our old sets of tools where we had it was 2 sets instead of just the 1, they're marked. The way this works is 1 through 4 is the same as the white tool, 1 through 4. And then 5 through 8 is the same as the yellow tool, 1 through 4. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I will try to translate as I go just to make sure everybody is on board. So we're going to get started. So you've got that. You've got your damp paper towel to be able to clean your tool on. So this is the plate that we're doing tonight. I call it Happy Days. I make up all the names as I warned you last time. So, sorry, I'm drinking coffee tonight. So I don't know. This one just gave me kind of a fireworks feeling with the little swirls jutting off and everything. So that's what we're going to be working on today, and that's what it looks like. So I'm going to take that off, move it out of the way. Now, as I often do, I put marker on mine in order so that you can see the markings better. Yours are etched into the glaze, but that's, I've noticed, can be somewhat hard to see sometimes on camera, so I do this instead. Now, before I get started, if you have a piece of scrap paper or something, in the real world, people have scrap paper. In my world, I have scrap plates. So I just want to show you, if you're new to this, how to get to feel for your tool. So you've got your paints, and each of your tips obviously gives you a different size dot. But here's the thing that's important to understand is that it's not just the size of the tip that matters, it's also the viscosity of the glaze. So I can use tip number 3 in color in the red and get that dot. And I can use tip number 3 in the yellow and get a similar but slightly larger dot. And then the orange. Okay, so I just like you, if you've not done this before, if you have to practice on your table, on a piece of paper, on the bag that this came in, doesn't really matter. This stuff wipes off of everything. But I just want you to get a feel for how it can make a difference, not just the size of the tip, but the glaze. The other thing that can make a difference is for how long you hold the tip down. So I'm going to do this to make a point. So if I just barely touch it, it makes this size. But if I touch it and leave it there and then lift it up and let the paint drip down, this is the same tip getting 2 different size dots. And I mention that to you because this is pretty important, you know, when you're especially when we start this design and you have to fit a lot in. So I want you to, if you're practicing, practice just lightly touch and go, okay? Do a little bit of touch and go, so that you can get a feel for it. The blue is a thinner color, so that's one of the ones that will spread out more. That won't be a problem too much by the time we get to the blue. Really, I'm mostly worried, I'm not really worried, it's paint. Focused in on some of the red and the orange. So anyway, I'm just showing you how you can get different effects, and hopefully you're playing around a little bit and getting a feel for this yourself. All right, any questions to start with? All right, everybody ready to roll? Remember, what I need you to do is when I think that maybe people are starting to be done or ready for the next step, I'll ask you to hit the thumbs up so I can get somewhat of a head count, if you will, right, of who's ready to move ahead. All right, we got a nice crowd tonight, so that's kind of cool. So if you guys are ready to go, we'll thumbs up. And we'll get started. All right, taking that one off and coming back. So the first thing we're going to do to start the center is I almost always start with the largest tip. So as I mentioned before, for some of you who have just joined in, right, the tips go from 1 on the smallest all the way around to 8. 8 for the largest. And if you're working with one of the older 2 tool sets, just let me know, write a comment. and I will translate for you. But basically, we're just going to take that in some dip in the red, and we're going to give us our center dot. So for the center dot can be a nice size dot. So you can give that a little bit of a nice fat dot right there in the center. Now, I'm not 100% sure. I have this circle on mine. I have to admit, I marked this up like a few weeks ago. And I can't for the life of me remember whether you guys, hey Janet, do you guys have, Janet, maybe you can tell me, like any kind of a marking around the center on your plate or just the rays coming out? Let me know what you have, because that'll help me out here. Okay. All right. So I'm not hearing anything back, so you guys are going to be on your own. So maybe you can get a guess. I was talking to Emma, who helped me mark some, which is why I don't know if everybody has the same markings that I do, because I usually mark them all. But we've had such a tremendous response that I just raised. Okay, thanks. So that's what I thought. It's not a big deal. So you can kind of, by looking at mine, get a sense of the distance between the end of the ray and where I'm going to start my design. But you're just going to line it up with the rays, so it's pretty easy. And I'm going to start with the number 2 tip and the red. And at the end of every other ray, I'm going to just right about there. And it doesn't really matter where you do it, as long as it's in a little ways. So every other one, I'm going to put a number 2 dot. So I have this one, then I skip one, and then I'm going to do this one. We are going to come back and put something in the middle. So is this making sense? So using the number 2 tip, might even be able to use, I'm going to try it with the number 3. I might be changing my mind. I don't want you guys to get too crowded. Nope, number 3 is good. I'm moving up to number 3. So you can just dot over whatever you've done in number 2. And every other one, we're in line with the ray, about a ½ inch out from your center, go ahead and, if you don't have the circle, and put a red dot with the number 3 tip. Any questions about that? You have a circle, okay? See, that's what happens. Okay, so we have kind of a mixed bag here. And then what we're going to do is then go down using the number 1 tip, but still the red, and just put a little dot in between each one. Okay? Now, this is where I was mentioning before that there are 2 ways to control the size of your dots, right? Part of it is obviously the tip size, but part of it is how long you leave it on there for. So when you want to make nice small dots, you want to just be quick and go. So the number 1 tip and in between. So we're going to have a circle that's going to have large, small, large, small, large, small. All right, so I'm going to wait for you guys. Give me a thumbs up as you're finishing this step so that I know you're ready to move ahead. Okay, we left the music on today, so you're going to get a little singing if you're oh so not lucky. All right. So now we're going to be doing a with the yellow color glaze. We're going to use tip 2, and above the small dot, so above the number 1 dot, we're going to put a yellow dot. Okay. Now, I was going to quickly, mine aren't lined up, so I'm going to reline me up here, so ignore me until I get going here. But so we're going to, every other one, you're going to put a small yellow dot above. Yep, I definitely messed this up. Did not take long. And then once you've finished all of those, then we're going to actually jump up to the number 5 tip. Woo, fancy stuff. And the orange, and you're going to put on the in-between ray. And this one, don't press down too far to start with. Just let the paint fall off the tip until you get a feel for what it feels like to make a dot this big, because it can really spread out quickly. Now, as anyone who's done these with me before can attest, I will tell you that if you find that you have like a dot that goes and kisses the dot next to it, just leave it alone for now. It's way easier to clean up at the end when the paint is dry than it is now while the paint is wet. So don't try to clean it up now when the paint is wet. All right, so this is roughly what you're going to end up with at the end of this stage. So we have, right, so we've done the center with a 8 tip, and then every other ray we used the number 3 tip in the red on the circle, and in between we did the number 1 tip. And then with the yellow we have on the number 2 right at the end of the ray, and then the orange we have with the number 5 tip in between. Okay, feeling good? Seeing some thumbs up? Okay. You guys need me to wait or go? Go is a thumbs up. All right, there we go. I need feedback. Sitting here by myself. All right, so now we're going to use tip number 6 above that orange. Okay, we're going to do another large, we're going to do a large dot with number 6. So we're going to use the light yellow. Okay, and above the orange, we're going to put a dot. Okay, I mean, it's dotting. So above the orange, we're going to put a number 6 dot with the light yellow. This is a very colorful design. It uses, a lot of times the colors, like they go in a, we use one color a lot and then we go on to the next color a lot, etc. But this one, we use kind of like all the colors all the time. So I'd clean off my tip when I'm done. I'm just putting one dot, size 6 light yellow dot. I know, it's so funny. I just refer to colors as numbers. I had somebody call me. It's like, wow, thank you for sending all the paints, but could you tell me what color they are? So he read me the numbers and I told him what color they were. And now in between, if you finish that one, we're going to jump down to the number 3 tip. And so in between, we're just going to do a slightly smaller. Sorry, I'm cleaning up myself here. We're going to do a slightly smaller dot. And when you do that smaller dot, this is going to sound maybe obvious, maybe not. I want it to be a little closer in to that yellow, okay? So it's not necessarily, it's not going to be at the high end. It's going to be at the low end. Does this make sense if you can see mine? It's right above the yellow, but since those are 2 small dots, and what we just did with the on the orange ray was a large dot, it's going to extend a little higher. This is going to be in a little bit lower with the number 3 tip and still the light yellow. Oh, one more. Okay. Any questions? All right, good. I changed my setup today, so I keep looking for my sample, and it's not where I always put it. Okay. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go on to the next color, which is a light blue, and it's super light blue when it's wet, so it's really almost hard to tell that it's a light blue. We're going to use tip 5. Tip 5 is going to be the smaller of the two here. So tip 5 is actually going to go above the one we just did. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3. And again, be careful because this one will flow pretty quickly. So just let it drop there because you don't want it to get too big because then it'll be out of proportion. So we're going to do a little bit. It's bigger than the one that it's above, but not as big as the ones next to it. Okay, so little light blue coming our way. It's funny, you know, when you're doing every other ray, it kind of goes so fast. The color number is 13 for the yellow. For the light blue, you probably don't care. It's 11. Those are the things I know. All right, and then what you're going to do is, obviously, above the other light yellow, we're going to use tip 7, which is the second biggest, also in the light blue, and we're going to put a dot. Okay? Now, for this dot, make sure you're leaving a little bit of room underneath it. Okay, don't make it kiss the yellow because we're going to want to try to put some little dots around this one. So leave a little space. If you don't leave space, I don't want you to stress about it because there's easy fixes for this, okay? Not a biggest of deals by any means. So now we've got, any questions on that? Okay, so I'm going to wait for you guys to finish. Don't forget to send me your little thumbs up when you're done with this step so that I know you're done. Okay. It's fun, isn't it, when you look at the design, it's already starting to look like something. It's kind of nice. All right, so now we're going to use tip 1. So the smallest tip, and we're going to go back to that bright yellow, that second color. And we're going to put 4 dots on each side of what we just did. And this is the way we're going to do it. And this is what I call dot, 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 which is a brilliant technique. But I'm going to start not at the bottom, but on the side of the bottom. I'm going to wait and see it, make sure you guys can see this. Just kind of in between these two. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's on the side. And I don't know if I said so at the beginning of today, but keep in mind, when you paint, you always paint better from one side, depending on whether you're left-handed or right-handed. It doesn't really help when I show it to you and I paint over it. So let me try doing it over here, even if it is awkward for me. I think you can get a better view. So I'm coming in between the two. 1, oops, by all my yakking. I always paint on the left because I'm left-handed. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's kind of like when you're done with it, it kind of looks like 2 parentheses around the sides. Now, does it matter if they're parentheses or commas or straight line? It doesn't matter. That's my point. Even if you ended up circling it, it doesn't matter. It'll look fine. But I'm just showing you this is the way that I did it. So I'm going to start between the two, between the light yellow and the blue, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. And the reason I do the 1 dot, 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 dot in this case is because as I get to the top, the dots get a little bit smaller because I have less paint on my tool. Or if you don't dip it well enough, you have less paint to begin with. And it just adds a nice design feature, to be honest, when you have the fading dots. There's some designs we do where this is kind of really important. So it's probably a good skill to develop. I'm going to show you guys a plate design that I actually recorded a video for, not on a Tuesday night. Oh my goodness, that was crazy. but with the idea that it's a really good design to be able to work on your own. So I thought I would just record it, and then if you like it, you could just pick up the kit for it anytime you want and make it. And it uses this technique a lot and to a really cool effect. Soon as I finish this up, my little dots, I'm going to show it to you. Some of you may have seen it. I think it's actually out on, I think it got posted on Facebook maybe yesterday or today. And I know I saw it up on my website this morning. All right, so while you're doing that, I'm going to show you this one that I'm talking about. This is one example of it. I call it the funky flower. This is, excuse me, in the rainbow colors. But what you can see is that as, you know, it uses the dot, where's a pointing tool? Dot, you start in the middle with these big dots, right? But then you're making the dots smaller as you go into the middle, and it gives you this super cool 3D look, which I love. I think it's cool. I'm going to show you the purple and blue one because that really shows it off. I think just the use of the colors shows it off really, really well. So, and just in case you're interested, in addition to having it in the rainbow and then in the purple and the blues, I also have it in the greens and the yellows. Because I like to dot. This one has a little different center, but it's the same idea. So those are the three of those that we use this dot technique a lot, you know, and to make a really kind of cool look to it, if you like that. We just used the bright yellow, Janet, for the dots around it. Although, again, you could use the light yellow if you preferred. Yeah. And we're going to do a little double dotting now. Okay. And that's when we add a second bit of color to some of the dots. These dots are a little bit wet still. And I have become more and more of a fan of dotting on wet dots. Double dotting on top of wet glaze rather than really dry glaze. So we're going to take the bright blue, the next color that you have, and on the dot where you just put the yellow around, we're going to take the number 5 tip and just let here, let me do it on this one because I think this is the one you get to see the best on. Just let the drip, let it just kiss it and just let it spread. You don't have to press hard. Just want to almost let it just kiss it and go. Kiss and go. It's the name of this new technique, I'm calling it. It's not a new technique. It's just, all right, so let it drip onto there. All right, so this is the brighter blue on the number 5 tip. On top of the dots, the big dot, the light blue dot, we just went around with the yellow. Okay. I just noticed I missed one. How me of me. I'm going to put this one in because I forgot it last. I skipped this one. Okay. Because that's the next thing we're going to double dot. I can't double dot if I forgot to do the first dot. So on the ray in between the one that we just double dotted, there are 3 dots, right? The yellow, well, there's, yeah, and the yellow, the light yellow, and then the light blue. So we're going to double dot this one with the number 3 tip, also with that same bright blue. So we're just going to let it kiss on the middle. Sometimes you can get 2 kisses out of 1 dip. Oh, the things I know, but don't force yourself. There's plenty of glaze. So that's the double dotting we're going to do for now. Key is to now keep your hands out of it. Don't drag your knuckles across it. So let me know if you have any questions. All right. So give me a thumbs up so I know you guys are, when you are done double dotting. So I have a good sense of when it's a good time to move ahead. All right, thank you. So we're going to do our next, really, I guess our last dot in this, on this ray. Well, we're coming back to the ray that you just did the 4 little yellow dots around. And we're going to use the number 8 tip. Now you have 2 purples. So the order here, you can barely discern that one is lighter than the other, but I put them in the order that we use them. So if yours are numbered, it's number 12, but if not, it's the lighter one. Also, let me just point out for the record, it actually doesn't really matter that much, but it's going to be the one to the left purple. That's the funny thing, if you do purples and pinks, it can be really challenging because when the glazes are wet, they look the same. So anyway, we're just going to put a nice big dot, and just so you know, we are going to do some dots. We're not going to put dots around the bottom of this, but since this is such a big dot, give yourself a little bit of space above the eyeball dot there so that you don't run into it, but still in between these other 2. So we're just going to go around and put one nice big dot up here. Alrighty. Whoops, don't skip it. Okay. All right, so we're going to have one nice big light purple dot there. And we're going to double dot that one with the number 6 tip and the other purple, which you will so not be able to see. They're going to blend right together right now, so you'll have to count. 1, 2, 3. 5. Don't take your eyes off of them, or hold your finger there so you know where you're leaving off. Yeah, it's the problem with the double dotting with the purple. That's almost funny. If you're not sure, take the chance and double dot it. Okay. And then we're going to go around that purple. And I'm going to use, I use the light purple for this. I guess I didn't do it yet. All right, I won't do it yet. I'm changing my mind because I don't want to get ahead of you. I want to stick with the order that we know. So we have our... Oh my goodness. We did that one. Tip 7. All right, so now we're going to go above the other, in the other ray that has the 4 dots on it. And we're going to also use the light purple. Okay, with the tip number 7. Okay, and that's going to come up here. So the light purple. Guys, just tell me if I'm going too fast. All right. I think sometimes the fact that my plate spins is not as helpful as everybody thinks it is, because sometimes I just, like a young child, get carried away with the spinning. And then we're going to double dot that one using tip 5 and the red right from the beginning. So we're going to put a little bit of red on that one. That's going to be a lot easier to see. think I might change this design for next time so that it's not so hard. I apologize with that double dotting with the purple. Okay, so we'll have that one with the red. Okay, so let me know how that's going. Now we're going to, if you're all set with that, yeah? Okay, no one's telling me no, so I'm gonna move on to the next step. You can use one of the sadder faces if I'm going too fast for you, or just make a comment for me. I'm gonna use the, we're gonna use the tip number 8 and the bright yellow from the beginning, the second one, and we're going to put that dot right above this dot, the one we've just been working on. So we're gonna do this. Okay. So we have a nice big bright yellow. And then when we're done with that, we're going to use the number 1 tip and the pale yellow to put 4 dots on each side like we did before. So the whole one, starting in between the 2 dots, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a little bit open on the front, on the top, but it ultimately doesn't really matter. So I don't want you to get too crazy about it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. I often count out loud, sorry. Must be annoying to listen. I'll try to be quiet. 1, 2. Oop, I did not succeed. All right, make that little, just putting it on the sides kind of gives it a nice design feel, but it doesn't overwhelm it. There's so much going on this plate by the time we're done. I don't want, and I just really wanted to end with that great fireworks moment. So this is tip number 1 and the light yellow with the 4 dots on each side. 2, 3, 4. Okay. Dot, dot, dot technique. Okay, look how dirty my hands are already. I don't even notice it until I look up and see what you're seeing, and then I feel like I have to apologize because I'm very messy. So, sorry. All right, how are we doing on that one? Everybody okay? You've got your 4 dots on each side. All right, I'll wait a minute. I don't know, I'm going to show, most of you probably or might have already seen the plate that we're going to do next week. I'm going to show it to you while I'm waiting for folks to catch up. I am, for the first time ever, almost out of these plates because I'm doing this one on the oval plate, and it's a beautiful plate, but my supplier is out of them. So I only have left, this is going to be brilliant sounding, I only have left what I have left. And so if it's a plate that you want to do, go ahead and order it. I have it in the white or in the jade green. Those are the 2 original colors I did. I also added a blue, which is on the website. but this is our plate that we're doing next week. So I know that's what Desiree thought we were doing this week. I'm sorry about that, Desiree, but it's a fun plate. It's a different shape, and it's got, you know, a nice sweet design. What happens? Yeah, so if your dots blend, leave them alone for now. Let them dry, and at the end, I'm going to show you how we clean them up. So there's two ways to deal with that. One is you can do it. It's not hard, but if you've made it if you've made a terrible mess and aren't sure how to fix it, when you drop off your plate, just let one of us know, and we can either show you how to fix it or we can fix it for you. But the one thing you don't want to do is try to fix dots that blended together while it's still wet, because there's nothing you can do. It's just going to smear, and then you can, it's like that Cat in the Hat story. What is that? The Cat in the Hat comes back, where the red just keeps getting on everything, and that's what'll happen. That color just goes everywhere, even places you didn't even think you touched. So let it dry, and then it scrapes right off, and I'll show you how to do that at the end. So now that you've got your 4 dots on each side, we're going to go back to that number 8 tip and the orange, and we're just going to go ahead and put an orange dot above that. A nice big old fat orange dot. Nice juicy number 8 dot. Okay, I think number 8 is my favorite, I have to admit. Although I always thought it was number 3. And now I hope you guys are laughing, because I'm sure you did not think a person could have a favorite dot. Yes, she can. Okay. So that's cool. We've got that happening. Well, now what we're going to do is we're going to go back on the inside. While that's drying a little bit, we're going to go back to this purple, and we're just going to use the number 1 tip and the same light purple. So that's the purple on the left. And we're just going to do what I call a crown. So you're going to start in the middle and then just put a few dots. In this case, I'm just going to do 2 dots on either side of that middle, because what I really don't want to have happen is I don't want it to get near the yellow color of the other little dots. And so it's not that important how far it goes, just a center and then dot, dot. And then, of course, on the other side, you just need the 2 dots. 1, 2. All right, so that's what we're going to do on each of these purples. Top, and this is the number 1 tip with the light purple, which is the one on the left in your pod. Center, dot, 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 dot. Okay, center, dot, dot. Okay. Okay, so we're going to leave that for a second. So I'm going to wait until everybody's done with their crowns, because, I mean, we're going to do a dot, dot, dot step again, but it's a little bit different than anything that we've done so far. So I just want to hold off and be able to show everybody together, make sure everybody can see it. So go ahead and give me a thumbs up when you're done with your side, your crown dot there, so that I know it's time to move on. Okay. All right, so, actually, I spoke too fast. We're just going to do another crown. Oh my gosh, I got you all excited for nothing. I apologize. We're going to move up to tip 2, and we're going to use the darker purple, and we're going to do the same thing, but it'll be a little bit, the dots should be a little bit bigger. 1, 2, 3. Usually and as a result of moving further up on the plate, you probably will have 3 dots on each side. And I'm saying probably because it's really not about how many dots you have. What matters is that they don't run into anything else. So if you only have room for 2 dots it is. It's the right answer. Ultimately, how the plate looks doesn't matter. Ooh, that was not a sentence. To get the look, it doesn't really matter how many dots you have, okay? It's even possible for it to look amazing with an uneven number. I've had times where my design ended up getting a little bit off center, so maybe in some parts I had 3 dots on one side and 2 dots on another, and you know what? Once it got fired, it looked fab. It feels bad, to be honest. When I'm doing it, it feels like I've messed up, but when it comes out of the kiln, it looks the way it was intended to look. So spacing is more important than the number of dots. So 1 at the center, and for me, on this design is 3 on each side, brings it just about even, okay? This is nice. It spreads it out and it gives it a nice airy look. So one of the things I really like, and I think I mentioned this maybe last week or the week before, I love that I can watch it on my iPad while I'm recording it for you, because it looks really pretty on camera. It's something about, it looks like it's already coming to life, which I think is kind of fun. So, and then the last thing we're going to do on this ray is we're going to use the number 3 tip and the blue. We're going back to the blue, but here's the thing: we're going to start on the line and do the dot, 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 but only on one side. So we're going to come down here, and I have 4 dots on this one, if you can see that, but I'm only doing it on this one side. I'm not doing it on both sides. So center, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Center, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes if you ended up for some reason too close, and you're not sure you can fit the last dot, instead of using that same number 3 tip, switch to the number 1 tip and put a nice light dot. Just dip it in the color and just put the tiniest little faintest dot there. It doesn't have to be, in fact, there's a design that I'm going to show you that I have coming up where I do that a lot, where I start with 1 tip, but then by the time I get to the end, I'm actually using a smaller tip, because I don't want to risk touching. So this is tip number 3 with the blue on 1/2. It gives it a kind of cool little, it gives it a real swirl, kind of movement look. And now we're done with this ray, just so you know. Any questions, comments? Everybody doing okay? All right. So we're going to then go back to our orange ray, to the ray that ends in the orange right now. We're going to go back with tiny tip number 1, tiny tip, and we're going to do a crown with the light yellow. So remember the crown being where you start on the line and then you come on each side. You can do, whoops, twirled too much, 2 or 3 dots on each side. This one you have more room, so you can do 3 if you like. I just did 3 just to show you what it looks like. So 1 on the line, and then 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3 with the light yellow. And tip number 1. All right. On the line, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. know, even I get quiet, enjoying the zen. This is the part where you can turn off the sound. I'm kidding. You never know when I might say something brilliant. It's not something you'd really want to miss. Totally being sarcastic. Okay. That will be our first crown. Crowning in yellow, in the nice pale yellow. Okay, repeat what we need to do with the orange. So around the orange dot, you're going to use tip number 1, and you're going to put a crown of the light yellow, the pale yellow. So you're going to start with a dot on the line right above the orange, and you're going to go dot, dot, dot on each side. I just want to make sure that was your question, right? Okay. Yes, sorry. Sometimes Facebook doesn't show me your comments right away unless I nudge it. So I'm going to watch and make sure, Mary, that was the right question that you asked. So I showed you guys the funky flower, and I showed you the one we're doing next week. So, whoops, sorry. The last thing I'm going to show you for now, while we'll wait for everybody to get caught up, is I'm going to show you the new plate. Now, I have this one, the other color that I have this plate in is in the kiln. So reason I'm mentioning that is because the name of this plate is Sun Goddess, and when I show it to you, it's not going to make any sense because this is the one I did in blue. And maybe it looks Sun Goddessy and maybe it doesn't. But the other one that's in the kiln I did in yellows and oranges, and I can't wait. So I mean, sometimes I do. I feel like I'm waiting like by the kiln, just so excited. Sorry, it's so shiny. It's too close to the light, but I can't. I don't want to mess with my settings, so ignore that. But this is one that's coming up in 2 weeks. And you will have a number of choices on the website of color sets you can do. This one basically uses 3 tones of the same color. So I have a bunch of different choices that I've put up there. Although in reality, you can do, as I like to say, whatever you want. So you can always just shoot us a note and say, I know I said I wanted it in purples, but I really wanted it in fill in the blank. Because as long as I have glazes in at least 3 tones of that color, which I think is probably true for just about any color, there's no reason why you can't do it in whatever color you want. But after, the kiln will probably be done, the next kiln load should be done tomorrow, like early afternoon. So what's tomorrow? Wednesday. So by Thursday morning, you'll see I'll have both of these plates up on the website, the blue one as well as the yellow one. So, all right, if we are good to go then, we've got our crown of yellow above that orange. And now what we're going to do is a crown of orange above the yellow. So we're going to just go up 1 tip to the orange. And we're just going to, repeat. So we're going to do the exact same thing. And like I said before, usually when you do this, you have 1 more dot than the row before. So if we had 3 dots on either side before, we're going to probably have 4 dots, 2, 3, 4 on this one. And again, this is not the only way to do it. Everybody has a different hand. Some people I'm usually a very heavy dotter. So if anybody's going to have fewer dots, it will be me. But this just gives you some sense of how the design could look. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it basically comes out about the same length as the crown beneath it when we do it like this. Okay, so this is tip number, hey Karen, tip number 2 with the orange. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and we're doing a crown, and the crown has, once you put the top dot on, there's 3 dots on either side. 4 dots, sorry. 4 dots. As I'm putting 4 dots in there, I'm saying 3. Yeah, that kind of a day. So for those of you who don't know, I mean, today is May something, she said brilliantly. And it's either the 11th or the 12th. I don't know. I'm sorry. I can't look at my phone because my phone is busy taking pictures for you. But in any case, we decided that this would be a brilliant time to take the studio apart literally almost completely, and scrub every corner and put it all back together again slightly differently. So when you all start coming in to bring in your plates, and as we get ready for our reopening in June, I'm hoping you're going to really enjoy some of the changes that we're making, and we'll find the studio, really comfortable and safe. Those are our major concerns. If anybody has any questions about the studio or how we intend to make sure that we're staying clean and safe for everybody, you're absolutely welcome to ask. I welcome questions and comments just to make sure that I am in tune with what works for you. All right, so if we finish the orange, we're now going to take tip 3 and the red, but remember the red back from the beginning, and except that we're just going to do the 1/2 thing again. So what I'm going to say is, if you look back at the blue and you see that, like in this case, I did the blue. It's always hard for me to say whether it's on your right or your left. See how the blue goes to one side? The point is you want the red to go to the same side. So I'm going to start up here, put more paint on there, and I want to come to the same side. And that's going to be a total of 5 dots. So my dot at the top, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 more. 5, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Learn to count. It's a total of 6 dots. For those of us who have better counting skills, we had 4 before, 5 before, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. And it's easy to tell because it's going to make it the same length as the one before it because we're further out on the plate. So we're using tip number 3. Oops, did I lose my comments? Nope, there we go. Tip number 3 with the red, starting at the top, just one side. Now, one of the things about doing these plates, and it doesn't make a difference if we're doing them online or together in the studio, is that everybody dots differently. And I know that sounds funny because you think to yourself, how differently can you dot? For heaven's sakes, it's a dot. But in fact, you can dot differently. So in addition to having a heavy hand or a light hand on your dot sizes, the amount of space that you have on your design is also going to vary. Some people, plates are much airier than others. They spread their dots out a great deal, and others are more compact. I'm usually in the more compact group, but I'm also keeping an eye on the fact that today I look to be somewhat airy. I was airy on the mug and plate a couple weeks ago too, or a week ago. I don't know when that one was, but maybe I'm getting airier as I get older. I don't know. But anyway, this is the reason I bring this up is not because I'm as crazy as I sound, but because it starts to matter now. We're going to put another pattern just right above here. And so I have, as I'd like to say, pretty much just enough room to do that. If you run out of room, it doesn't matter. So I don't want you to worry about it. I'll try to talk about different ways to adjust things if you do. And that's the whole point. The whole point is you can just adjust however you need to when that happens. So if you finish the red, and again, I'm not rushing. I'm just making sure that everybody's kind of at the same place. We're going to then go back to that big fat number 8. And we're going to use that light purple. Remember the light purple? And we're going to put a dot above what we just did. Now, what you're noticing is I'm actually picking up my plate because I'm already reaching the part. Let me put this down, my dotting tool. I'm reaching the part where my plate is starting to go up on the side a little bit. And so when that happens, you want to hold your plate up on one side if you can, so that the area that you're dotting stays perpendicular. Nope, sorry, parallel. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Mr. Gregory. How embarrassing. I've ruined geometry for you. Anyway, parallel to the table. So I'm just going to put a big dot there. I'm not going to do anything below this dot, so I'm putting it somewhat close-ish to my red, but not so close that I have to worry about it kissing. So I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to go slowly. This paint sets pretty quickly, so I'm not, once I press on it and I release, and I just start to twirl it around a little bit, it should be okay. It will not drip. I've not really ever had it drip, but I certainly know that it can. So to me, the safest thing to do is just to do this, is to make sure when you're pressing, that you're doing it on sort of a parallel to the table. So I've made those big purple, light purple dots with the number 8 tip all the way around. All right, is everybody getting the feel for that? One of the things that makes this design fun, it'll show up a lot more when you have it fired, is the bright and light variations of these colors. Again, when they're fired, you can't really see it so much, the differences in the tone when the glaze is wet, but you can see it really brings the plate to life, I think. So now we're going to use, if you're ready, and I'm not seeing anybody who said stop, stop, stop. So we're going to use the number 1 tip, whoops, and the darker purple. And we're going to do the crown again. So where we start at the top, whoops, more paint. 1, 2, 3 on each side. All right. Probably do not need to hold my plate for this. These are very tiny. There's not much to drip. I'm starting at the top. I think you guys can see better when I'm working at the top. No, you can't see. My hand's in the way no matter where I am going. I'm so sorry. I try to do it a little quickly so that, here, maybe this one. 1, 2, 3. Does that side work well? Let me see. Yeah, that's the angle. Okay, good for me. That only took me 5 weeks to figure out. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Oops. Oops. Oh, good. I'm glad I connected to there so I can show you how to clean that at the end. All right, so you're going to put your crown of the darker purple. Well, that's what you're doing now, just to be clear, even though you can't tell it's a darker purple. Now I want my little mistake to dry so I can show you how to clean it up. I'm so excited. And once you finish that, then we're going to just go up, the same thing we did before. We're going to go up to the number 2 tip, and this time go back to the lighter purple and put another crown above that. 1, 2, and that'll have 4 dots on each side. Lighter purple. That's the hardest part, is remembering which color you're working with. So the lighter purple, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. All right. I think doing dot, dot, dot is one of my favorites, although I'm kind of partial to my swooshes. I don't have swooshes on this design. But I just find it very relaxing. It's one of my faves. All right, how's that feeling, everybody? Let's see. Everybody's good. All right. So you've got, though you can't see it, you have the light purple and the dark purple crowns above that one. And the last thing we're going to do on this ray then is we're going to go to tip number 3 and the blue. And we're going to go ahead and put that, just that half, wait, I decided you could see better over here. Just a little half, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the same side as the other half things. And if you remember, if you find yourself up on the slope, then tilt your plate, okay? Always safer to tilt if you need to, so that your paint doesn't run. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that one I forgot to put a second row on. Okay. So this one ends up with 5, including the center. Okay. 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 All right, how's that feeling? Hey, Liz, welcome. Yay, what do you think? Gonna join us? All right, so we're done with our rays now. So I'm gonna hold off for a second. I'm gonna ask you guys to give me some feedback so I know when you're done with your blue half circle there. And so we can start to talk about kind of just doing the fireworks bit, the part that comes next. All right, we're going to switch over. This one is basically going to be all tip 3. Okay, so we'll get that out of the way. And basically, the blue is tip 3 that we just did. So you're going to just go do one side with that. Okay. Now, if you have I can't imagine that you do, but if you have less space than I have on my plate in between, like in between here and everything, then you can always modify this next part of the design. But, and I'm not saying that's not possible, but you know, so if you do, keep that in mind, and you're welcome to post comments if you need me to help you with that. I definitely can. One of the things about this is that's important for the fireworks part, as I call it, is keeping it off the slope. So the slopiest part of the plate up here, I'm typically trying to avoid. What you typically will do is use the line as my guide for where I want to, this is going to sound weird, end my dots. So the fireworks is about 7 dots, okay? And it's going to be the dot, dot, dot technique, and it's going to have a slight arch to it. And what really matters is going to be that you get a little bit of a curve in there, and that because you're going to really follow that curve for every subsequent firework. I don't know. I don't know what to call it, so I think I'll stop talking because that probably would be helpful. Okay, and I'll just show you what comes next. So, whoops. I'm assuming you guys can still see, yeah, because for some reason my iPad froze and went back to the beginning, which really won't help you too much. But I'm assuming that it didn't happen for everybody, just for me. Okay, so let me see what happens here if I press on that. Yeah, okay, that worked. So here's what I'm going to do. Using tip number 3, and I'm going to start with the bright yellow. This one is only with the bright colors at this point. So I'm going to start with that second color and the tip number 3. And I'm going to start about the height of my center, a little bit higher, I guess, the top of my purples. And I'm going to start just to the left of the center line. And I'm going to go dot, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my line came out just to the side of the ray, the etched part on yours. It doesn't matter where, as long as, if it has a little curve like this, that's important. If it has, even if it's straight, it will still work. It doesn't matter. As long as it's in the vicinity of this, you'll have enough room for everything. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. This is really about room. So I'm going to do all the yellows. And no, they're not going to all be identical. But what you'll find is that muscle memory is an amazing thing. All right. And so they'll all be pretty much the same. 3, 4. And they'll all be, and by the time you're done putting them all on there, I mean, I've done this plate a number of times, and I'm always amazed because they're not always the same. And once it gets fired, I really can't tell. I mean, I can if I really want to criticize myself. Let's be clear. That's not that hard. But I don't really want to because, you know, life's too short for that. I really just want to have the fun of going dot, 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 dot. That's what I really want to do. So that's what we're really doing here, is doing all of the yellows first. I hope it's still going, because you can't even figure out why my iPad froze. All right, then I'm gonna do the orange to the right, and it's not, I think the only thing I want to point out on the orange is that it's not, does not have to be symmetrical. I actually started a little bit lower because I don't want it to be symmetrical. I want it to kind of line up at the end here, but I don't want it to have to be symmetrical. So I start a little lower, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That one only had 6. I'm telling you that so you know. That happens. Quote unquote, even to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just really like to get some shape to it. That's another 6. So I'm just using the number 3 tip still. Yeah, all of those ended up with 6 at the end. Isn't that funny? Okay, and you guys are all still here, right? I'm only making sure since... Okay, thank you. Since my iPad isn't talking to me anymore. Let's see. Let me go up here and look at my... Yes, okay, seems to be working. Sorry about the jiggliness. Just wanted to check the phone. Okay, so, and again, this is, you don't have to rush, okay, because I'm not doing anything new or different. I'm just showing you where I'm, and you can look at the picture you have, or my example plate, and also see it. So next, I'm going to do my red, which is underneath the orange. So I just start a tiny bit below it, and just add some red. This one is probably 1 less dot size or so than the orange. You know, in terms of the number of dots, because it's slightly smaller, because you're starting slightly below it. But it doesn't really matter if it goes down a little further. This is one of those cool things that just builds as you go. Like once you're done, it really gives it a nice wow effect. It's a little bit of, oh wow, I did them all already. I'm just getting to be kind of fast at this. Okay, so we have the red and the orange and the yellow up there. And now next to the, using her words, next to the yellow, I'm going to do the darker purple. And again, I'm going to do it, on this one, I'm going to do it a little bit further. I'm going to do it the same idea, which is I'm going to go, it's going to be underneath. Okay, so it ends up a little bit, like maybe 1 dot shorter because of the slightly smaller distance. Now, that time I didn't get a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and redo it. Redotting is possible. It's sometimes tricky because sometimes you end up then making your dots too fat and they run into each other. But if you have a light hand and you're aware of the fact that that can happen, you can usually compensate for it. Because sometimes you just, even though you think you're dipping the same as always, it doesn't work out that way. And the last one I put on is the blue. So again, this is all the same thing, and the blue is, it's basically, you know, I'm obviously just repeating the technique. And they don't all have to end exactly in a straight line. You can make some a little bit longer, shorter than others. This is one you can notice really how the different viscosity of the different glazes impacts the size of the dots. Okay, so that's the fireworks bit. Does anybody have any questions about that? There we go. All right, there it goes. It came back. That's funny. Okay. Ooh, that looks nice. I know that sounds really funny, but I can definitely see see it better on when I look at it on the iPad. And the last thing I'm going to do, and again, you may not be at the exact same stage that I'm at. If you want to, it's flexible, is to add a double dot to the center. I typically use the light purple, and I would use like the number 6 tip if I want it really big. And I'm just going to add some, just add a little dot in the center of that. So I'm not rushing to finish or anything, so don't panic or anything. I'm just showing you that as being the last step. I'm going to watch for comments in case I've gotten too far ahead of anybody. I always like to try to move it back into the center. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So we're going to let that dry. Make sure if you're going to put this out to dry, somewhere to dry overnight, you're going to keep it away from the cat. I don't have a cat normally these days, but I do have a cat visiting me. And it kind of reminded me of how curious she is and how I have to keep everything out of her sight. Now I'm going to go look for that. I forgot where that was, where I said, oh, here's a dot that's kissing. I'm so glad, so I can show you how to clean it up. So while you guys are finishing it, I'm going to go look. I'm looking for my mistake. But I think that kind of makes that point about how mistakes seem so obvious and so out there when you're making them. But then when you go to look for it later so you can fix it, here it is. It's hard to find. So I only have one mistake today, and so it might be a little bit challenging. If you have any kissing dots, stop what you're doing for a minute so that you can watch this if you want to see me. I'm taking my time because I want to make sure. Okay, so I'm going to lift this up higher, closer to the camera so you can see it as better because I'm only going to have one chance to fix it here. All right, so I have these 2 dots that have kind of come together. Okay, all I'm going to do, and I happen to have a paintbrush that has a chiseled end. You can use a toothpick. You're just going to basically draw lightly a line back and forth and then blow. Okay, don't chisel too deeply. Just lightly and blow. All you're trying to do is you're not trying to reshape the dots at all, okay? You're just trying to clear off the paint that's in between the two. If you chisel too deeply and you take off that base coat, I can't tell. So when it gets fired, you'll see the plate underneath. So don't over chisel and don't try to reshape the dots. One of the reasons why this project works so well for so many people is these glazes are very user friendly and they're going to want to be round, your dots. So just by making that little line, all I did was, if you notice, was just go straight in between, blow so I can see it, chisel again, and then I was done. And boom, it's fine. They're circles, everything's going to be good. That's all you need to do. If you're concerned about it, you're like, I don't get what you're talking about. This sounds complicated. I'm afraid, whatever. Just bring it in, show it to us. No problem, we can fix it for you. So does anybody have any questions? Okay, what'd you think of this plate? Yeah, you guys done? Not done? I love how the center just seems to have so much movement to it. It makes me want to spin this around on my spinny thing, but I don't want to do that because it'll make you dizzy, and that would be not good. So if you don't have any more questions for me, and I'm not seeing any coming up, I am going to, thank you, end the transmission. Okay, Mary, you know I was waiting for you, don't you? Yay! Mary's done, then we're all done. Thanks so much for joining in tonight. I hope to see you next week. I have a couple more plates lined up, and then after that, I'm going to introduce some other items. So stay tuned, and thanks for making quarantine fun. Have a good night.